How do you combine reducers in Redux? You can combine reducers in Redux using the combine reducers function provided by the Redux library. This function takes an object as an argument, where each key represents a slice of the state and each value represents the corresponding reducer function for that slice. The combine reducers function then returns a new reducer function that can be used with the Redux createStore function to create a store with multiple reducers. What is a store in Redux? In Redux, a store is an object that holds the application state and provides a way to dispatch actions that can update the state. It is a central repository for all the data in the application and acts as the single source of truth. The store is created using the createStore method provided by Redux, which takes in a reducer function as an argument. The reducer function specifies how the state should be updated based on the actions dispatched to the store. The store also provides methods for subscribing to state changes and for getting the current state of the application. How do you create a store in Redux? To create a store in Redux, you need to use the createStore function from the Redux library, which takes a reducer function as a parameter and returns a new Redux store object. Here's an example of how you can create a simple store with a reducer. JavaScript. Import createStore from Redux. Function reducer, state equals, action. Switch, action.type. Case update underscore name. Return, state, name, action.payload. Default. Return state. Const store equals createStore, reducer. In this example, the reducer function is a simple function that takes the current state and an action object as parameters and returns a new state based on the action type. The createStore function is then used to create a new Redux store object by passing in the reducer function as a parameter. This store object can then be used to manage and manipulate the state of your application. How do you connect a component to the Redux store? You connect a component to the Redux store using the connect function provided by the React Redux library. What is middleware in Redux? Middleware in Redux is a function that sits between the action creators and reducers, allowing you to intercept, manipulate, and dispatch actions. 31. How do you use middleware in Redux? Middleware in Redux is used to add additional functionality to the dispatch process of Redux actions. It intercepts actions before they reach the reducers and can modify them, dispatch new actions, or perform side effects like logging or making API calls. Middleware can be added to a Redux store using the apply middleware function provided by the Redux library. What is the difference between synchronous and asynchronous actions in Redux? Synchronous actions in Redux are simple JavaScript objects that contain a type field and any additional data needed for the action. They are dispatched and processed immediately, meaning that the state is updated synchronously. Asynchronous actions in Redux involve some kind of side effect, such as making an API call or accessing browser storage. They are typically handled using middleware such as ReduxThunk or Redux Saga, which allow the action to be dispatched and processed asynchronously. This means that the state update may happen at a later time after the asynchronous operation has been completed. How do you handle asynchronous actions in Redux? Redux middleware such as ReduxThunk or Redux Saga can be used to handle asynchronous actions in Redux. These middleware allow you to dispatch asynchronous actions that can perform tasks like making API requests or interacting with a database, and then dispatch a success or failure action when the asynchronous task is completed. What is React Redux? React Redux is a state management library for JavaScript applications that combines the view layer of the React UI library with the Flux architecture's unidirectional data flow to manage the application state in a predictable manner. How do you use React Redux to connect a component to the Redux store? You can use the connect function from the React Redux library to connect a React component to the Redux store. Here's a brief example. 1. Import the connect function and the action creators you want to use in your component. JavaScript. Import connect from React Redux. Import increment counter, decrement counter from /actions. 2. Define the component you want to connect to the store. JavaScript. Function counter, props. Return. div. pcount, props.count/p. Button onClick equals props.increment plus/button. Button onClick equals props.decrement /button. /div. 3. Use the connect function to create a new component that is connected to the store. Arduino. Const map state to props equals state equals count state.count. Const map dispatch to props equals increment counter. Decrement counter. Export default connect map state to props, map dispatch to props, counter. In this example, map state to props maps the count state property to a prop named count in the counter component, and map dispatch to props maps the increment counter and decrement counter action creators to increment and decrement props, respectively. The connected component is then exported as the default export. What are presentational components in React? Presentational components in React are stateless components that are mainly responsible for rendering UI elements based on the data provided to them through their props. They focus on how things look and not how they behave, and are typically used to build reusable UI components that can be composed together to form more complex UIs. Presentational components are also known as DOM or functional components, and they are separate from container components, which handle the logic and data management of an application. What are container components in React? Container components in React are components that are responsible for managing the state and behavior of other presentational components. They provide data and behavior to their child components through props and pass down callback functions to handle events triggered by those child components. Container components are often connected to a Redux store or other state management libraries to manage application-wide state. By separating the presentation and behavior concerns, container components help improve the maintainability and reusability of a React application. How do you separate presentational and container components in a React application? Presentational components are focused on how things look and feel, while container components are concerned with managing data and passing it down to presentational components. To separate them in a React application, you can create presentational components that are reusable and accept data as props, while container components manage state and pass it down to presentational components. This allows for better organization and easier maintenance of the codebase. What are higher-order components in React? Higher-order components, HOC, are functions that take a component and return a new component with additional functionality. Hooks are a way to reuse component logic and enhance component behavior by wrapping them with other components. They are commonly used in React to share code between components, abstract away complex logic, and create reusable and modular code. Thanks for watching. For more information, like, comment, and subscribe our channel.